Hello and welcome back to What Was That? The podcast where we discuss business and tech and all the news that surrounds it. All of it. Every single piece, everything that happened. You don't need to check anything else anywhere in the world. We are your only authoritative and exhaustive source of news. Nitesh, everything, 10 seconds.
Trust us, bro.
Trust us,
What
bro.
we covered. Yeah, we what you covered. But it's not such a bad strategy, come to think of it. I mean, what's the worst we could do? Any potential harm we could do, any news that we could keep away from you, your algorithm is probably doing worse. So
Yeah.
I fully endorse this message. But anyway, how you been? How is GST Divas? Was that a thing? The new pricing. Have you made any big ticket purchases?
No, my purchases, I was in Singapore for a week.
Oh, good.
I thought I would compare prices. I went to the camera stores, the guitar stores. Everywhere I was like, no, no, Singhi made sense at 50, not at 70. Like at 50, I can understand some things are a bargain, something that aren't. At
Right.
70, like, hey, what is going on here? 70 rupees. No.
It really pinches, no? And the 7 table is a lot harder than the 5 table too.
That, but it was 68.5.
Uh-huh.
Well, actually, 68.5 is the XC rate, but if I use credit card, it is 71. And if I use debit card, then that ATM will charge me X rupees and my whatever, so 75 rupees. Also gypped off. So irritated. But yeah, it is 7 is a hard to make. My maths was not mathing very well.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for the USD INR to reach 100. Just make it really simple, like it was with pounds for the longest time. Just add 2 zeros.
It's I do that mentally anyhow. And then I'd say, हाँ थोड़ा discount मिल जाएगा.
Anyway,
It's nice also then.
nice.
Right, 100 rupees plus a little bit of discount.
Hmm.
Euro is like 105 or something now. What is going on?
So we're just front loading all the cheeriness.
We
Yes.
are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
Automakers have had a bumper week. Um Almost all of them have posted record numbers, not just month on month, which was bound to happen because the demand was pooled and then let out all at once,
Hmm.
but even year on year, which again last year was not that great. So it was a low reference year, wala problem, but still, they've see, honestly, all the news right now is overwhelmingly positive, okay, which uh, is usually a sign that it is being massaged, if not outright managed.
Hmm.
And so I would like to, wait for the quarterly results and just take a step back and look at the actual numbers.
But
And
this was the season, right, for like shopping.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. But again, like we discussed, there was a weird backstop and like a sudden dam was put in on the demand and then pooled and then let out all at once. Were there leakages? Did this actually encourage more people to buy than would have otherwise? We'll need more data to conclude either way what actually happened or what actually is happening. The month is over, so we should see. I mean, the FADA Vahan data is out already, and that is encouraging. So that's great. I'm looking for the FMCG company numbers because again, it will be skewed because there was just 9 days of all out sale, and did that make up for uh, what was on a scale lackluster first 3 weeks of September? Did it make up for that? I don't know. Let's see. I'm really
You
out to.
did you did you
Mhm.
buy an iPhone 17?
No, I have not. No offers
In
yet.
Thailand.
Yeah, and to your point of the exchange rate, the last time I was there, the Thai baht was 2.12, something like that. We need seriously. It has to be the mic, man. This is my first face all morning. It has to be the mic. Anyway,
Podcast. Hmm.
the last time I was there, the Thai baht was 2.1 to 2.15 to the rupee. So you round it down and said, "Oh, I paid a little more than what I expected." Uh, Now it's almost three bucks. So, and ऐसा भी नहीं है कि the Thai baht has strengthened against other currencies. It has also weakened against the dollar, but the Indian rupee has weakened more, especially since April, since the tariff tantrum. It really hurts, man. It really hurts. And it's still cheap for what you get, but way more expensive than it used to be. And the problem is that it's something that used to cost 100 baht is still 100 baht, but you are paying almost 100 rupees more for it. That hurts.
No, at my startup, we're like, how soon can we start exporting?
Yeah,
This is the
that
best time
it
to
is.
be exporting.
It is. Especially services which don't have tariffs yet and which are harder to tariff, frankly.
I'm not even talking to the US. I'm talking more to Singapore.
Huh,
Dubai.
which makes complete strategic sense, but also uh, take care. I'm sure you'll make your way there. Despite everything, the US is still the largest market for most things. So even if it's not as profitable and there's a lot more uncertainty, just to make you globally competent, you have to be in that market.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have a choice. You can delay maybe, but not indefinitely.
Who knows, maybe in 6 months, I'll be like a Delaware Sea Court sitting in the Bay Area talking down at you. Ah, Indians, Nitesh. Indians. Yes, I did used to work. Yes, cheap labor. Cheap labor.
I look forward to posting my uh, selfie video on my YouTube channel, Tale of Betrayal, and how Vineet is where he is because of me today,
Because of the podcast, yes.
and the bastard won't even acknowledge me.
Were you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm all set.
On that very happy note, story number one, Nitesh.
My only story of the week concerns a specific kind of financial arbitrage. So it's called merger arbitrage. It's I love this. It's like one of my favorite plays in finance. So I'm going to geek out a little. Please bear with me. Whenever a company makes more money than it needs, it can do a bunch of things with it, right? The one that shareholders love is that you give the money back to them in terms of dividends, stock buybacks, whatever. But like we've discussed over and over, my favorite use for that is to acquire other companies, preferably fledgling startups, and turbocharge them or at least future proof your own business. Right? That's my favorite play on this. But anyways, for a variety of reasons, companies love buying each other out. Mergers and acquisitions is like a whole not cottage industry. It's a proper bona fide industry in itself. The helpers and facilitators and enablers and blockers of mergers and acquisitions is a very big industry around the world. Like it's a inherent part of corporate life that mergers happen, acquisitions happen. Now, whenever a big deal is announced, they'll say, okay, I am buying this company and here's what we are going to pay. These are the terms of the deal. We're going to pay in cash. We're going to swap shares. I'm going to give them share in my company, exchange for share in their company, whatever. This announcement always comes with an asterisk, which is subject to regulatory approval. So we are ready. I'm ready. The company that I'm looking to buy is usually ready. In some cases, it's not, in which case it becomes a hostile takeover. But whatever. In either case, we are going to go ahead with this deal, provided we get the blessing of the relevant government authorities. If it is purely a US or an Indian based company, or companies, both the acquirer and the target, then it would be just that country's regulator. Mostly nowadays, it's multinationals. So they say we'll require regulatory approval from all the uh, authorities in all the countries that we are large in or even that we operate in. Now, from the government's perspective, why would they block deals? It could be for a bunch of reasons. Sometimes some industries are considered strategic, like defense manufacturing. It makes sense, right? You don't want the Chinese, for example, or even the Japanese in this case, owning all your weapons manufacturing here in India, right? Because there are inherent conflicts of interest there. You don't want that because you don't know what tomorrow might bring, right? So strategic reasons is number one. Uh, Although that's rare. Much more common would be either to protect your own industry, which happens in crony states. Like in India, for the longest time, FDI was not allowed in retail, which Walmart struggled through, and then they had to partner with Bharti, and then now they're on their own, and they're just mucking through that. So there were regulatory hurdles in place for that. Insurance, for example, you cannot, as a US insurer or a Swiss insurer, you can't just set up operations here in India. You're not going to get the approval without a local partner, without having sufficient balance sheet strength, without having sufficient boots on the ground, things like that. There are a lot of hurdles, and in some cases, even if you cross all those hurdles, you might just be denied without an
Hmm.
explanation. That happens. The most common one, though, is to protect consumers, ostensibly, which is if there are 10 players in an industry and gradually they're all merging with each other, down the line, you might be left with only two or even one. And governments don't like that because they know what happens when corporates get that much monopoly power, right? It's usually the consumer who pays. It is at the detriment of the consumer only that such large acquisitions are justified to boards. That once we are large enough, we get enough pricing power that we can just raise prices. Who's going to pay that? It's going to be the consumer. So regulators frequently block deals on the ground of we don't want monopolies, or we don't want anything even tending to an oligopoly. Ostensibly, that's the reason that's given. Although it's been a little out of trend of late. But anyways, with that context, there is a window between when the deal is announced and when it either closes or fails. And in that window, if either or both of the companies that are involved are listed, a lot of fun things happen with their share prices. Okay. Now, this has nothing to do with the operations of the business itself. The business might be profitable, it might be struggling. For that window, that is not so important. What's important is a binary outcome. Will the deal go through or will it not go through? Now, usually what happens is, let's say I, Nitesh, want to buy your company, Vineet, and it's already listed on the stock market and it's trading at, say, 10 rupees a share. And so I make an offer. Now, to entice retail shareholders or even large institutional shareholders to give their shares to me, I need to pay a premium, right? So if I offer 10 bucks, your shareholders or even you as a promoter will say, I'm already, I mean, that's already priced in, right? My stake is already worth 10 bucks. What's in it for me? Why do I sell to you? So I would have to offer a premium. I'll say, no, I'll buy it for 13 rupees or 14 rupees. And that's the premium that I'm willing to pay for control of the company. Provided I get all the shares in the company and I can take it off the market or merge it into my company or whatever. That's up to me. But usually there's a premium that's offered. And so that's the arbitrage. As an investor who has no interest in either company, you can decide that I think this deal is going to go through. And so I'm going to buy the share of Vineet's company at 10 and just sit and wait it out. And as the approval comes through, the share price is gradually going to go to 14, say, or at least 13.50. And that's when I will exit, make a nice profit. That is merger arbitrage, plain and simple. You can make this as complex as you want with derivatives. You can short the acquiring company and go long on the target, all sorts of things. But the underlying mechanic is simple. Either you bet that the deal will go through, in which case you put your money in one direction, or you bet that it's not going to go through, which is rarer, but you bet in the other direction. That's merger arbitrage. Now, with that context, in Jan 2021, Microsoft announced that it's going to acquire Activision Blizzard, which is a large game studio, develops a lot of very well-known titles, including Call of Duty, if I remember correctly. Yeah, for
Yeah.
$70-ish billion. This was the largest deal in the gaming industry and one of the largest deals, period, that happened in tech and even otherwise. Like, this was a very big deal, literally. And right away, regulators said, we have a problem with this. The problem wasn't just in one direction. Microsoft owns Windows, Microsoft owns Xbox, Microsoft also owns a bunch of other gaming studios, some of which it had just recently acquired. So there was that problem of you don't want so much consolidation happening under one roof, in so much power concentrated in the hands of one company. Other game studios still wanted to develop games for Xbox, for instance, right?
Yeah.
On the other side, Sony objected that what Microsoft is going to do is they're going to take Activision Blizzard's best titles and just take them off the PlayStation platform, keep them only to Windows PCs and the Xbox, which would definitely be detrimental to Sony, right? And which is exactly the kind of monopolistic behavior that regulators dislike. So the deal is announced in January of 2021. Well, let me just confirm. No, January of 2022, the deal is announced. And they say, okay, here's what we're gonna pay. Activision Blizzard was also listed, by the way. Here's what we're gonna pay. And this is what we have in mind. We're going to be engaging with all the regulators one by one. And we hope that the deal is, or we believe the deal is going to go through and it's going to be good for shareholders of both companies. Now, after the deal was announced, some regulators just waved it through because it didn't make that much of a difference to them. Like the EU, like China said, okay, we don't see any problem here. They waved it through. The UK watchdog and more importantly, the US FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, they both objected. No, this is a problem. You already own too much of the gaming industry, and this gives you disproportionate power over the rest of as well. They objected. Now, Sony's allegations that this is going to be a problem for us, Microsoft is clearly going to abuse its newfound power. It has some historical context. Microsoft was one of the first companies in nearly 100 years to be dragged into an antitrust case, to be brought in front of Congress as well. Bill Gates had to testify, and the Sherman Antitrust Act, which was what was used to break up Standard Oil and Big Tobacco, like in the 1930s, 1920s, yeah, 20s. Microsoft was dragged into court on that, on violation of that act because of what it did with its browsers. It had disproportionate power because it sold basically the operating system that everybody used, right? And so it forced Internet Explorer down people's throats because it came pre-installed, and most people weren't savvy enough to go and download another browser, which is still true even today, right? So Netscape sued Microsoft, and ultimately the DOJ brought a case against them. I so wish that the US government had the balls to go through with it and break up Microsoft. We would be living in a completely different world because, of course, Microsoft, the monopoly, would no longer exist, but also it would strike fear in Google, it would strike fear in Facebook. I refuse to call it Meta. And they would not have been as acquisitive as they have been in the last 20 years if they had been scared away by Microsoft's example. The DOJ had the perfect opportunity to set an example there and break up Microsoft. But anyways, they settled, and so there was history of Microsoft doing bad things on the record, abusing its monopoly in ways that were detrimental to the industry overall, to consumers, because for the longest time there was no innovation in browsers, right? Because even if you made the best browser, there was no way to get the message out to people, to even get people to try your browser. Even today, like what happened with Chrome happened because Internet Explorer was just so spectacularly bad that despite it being the default option, people went out of their way, learned. The first thing you did when you opened Internet Explorer was download Chrome, right? It took a lot, and it still took a decade for Chrome to emerge as a viable competitor. So for a decade, we endured a subpar browser because of Microsoft, because the DOJ didn't have the courage to follow through. They had everything. They had Microsoft by the balls, and they chickened out. Anyways, so yeah, there is history of Microsoft abusing its monopoly. So they objected to the deal. Sony objected to the deal. The regulator, the FTC, also objected to the deal. So this is the environment that we were in say mid 2022, where there is uncertainty. The deal may go through, it may not go through. We don't know. Microsoft effectively offered finally about $95 a share for Activision. And at the time, it was trading in the mid 70s, low to mid 70s. Okay. So if the deal went through, the arbitrage was nearly $20, $20 plus at the time. Here comes probably my favorite part of this story. Berkshire Hathaway had already bought a small stake, small for Berkshire stake in Activision before this deal was announced because the stock price was so depressed.
Hmm.
Why was the stock price depressed? There were Activision was embroiled in a lawsuit. There were sexual harassment allegations, employment discrimination allegations, and just the general sort of unsavory corporate behavior that I don't know, for some reason most companies inevitably find their way to. So because of that, they were under that shadow. They'd already lost the case. There was going to be a hefty settlement, and even the CEO's name was dragged in. So because of this, the stock price was depressed, which is the reason Microsoft saw it as a good target. But even before Microsoft announced their deal, Berkshire picked up a stake, a small stake in Activision Blizzard, purely because they saw it as a value play. That this the price has fallen below what we think Activision Blizzard is worth, so we're going to pick up a stake and just wait it out because Berkshire has a luxury of infinite patience, right? Uh, After this deal was announced, Warren Buffett stepped in. So the original investment was made by one of the managers of Berkshire, not Buffett himself. Like he wasn't personally involved in the deal. After the acquisition was announced, and there was some idea of okay, here are the regulatory challenges. Will this deal go through? Will it not go through? This is the price. This is the target price that is being offered. Berkshire was already familiar with the company because they'd already done their due diligence and all that. They said, okay, this is a worthwhile risk because worst case the deal does not go through, which we don't see happening. But even if it doesn't, the company itself is perfectly fine. We are happy to buy it at this price. And if it does go through, Microsoft has the wherewithal to endure lawsuits for like the next 2 or 3 years because Microsoft was paying entirely in cash from its own balance sheet. They weren't borrowing money. There was no pressure from banks, no pressure from investors because it was such a small part of their balance sheet. Warren Buffett rightly called the play that Microsoft will win this because they have the chips to endure dragging it out for even 3, 4, 5 years. It doesn't make a difference. They will win in the end, and that's what ended up happening. Warren Buffett picked up a big stake in Activision, waited 2 or 3 quarters. As it became clear that the acquisition is going to go through, the stock price moved from some mid 70s to about 94, 95. And that's when he sold. So he made about $1 billion on an investment of 4.5-ish billion in the span of 2, maximum 3 quarters, because we only know from the quarterly filings that Berkshire has to do as a listed company. But yeah, they made about $1 billion in the span of 6, maybe 9 months, just from understanding who the players are, what the probabilities are, and having that stack of cash to be able to make the bet. That's it. That's pure simple merger arbitrage. That if you can pierce through the regulatory uncertainty and kind of divine the outcome, you can stand to make a lot of money on.
And now it's going through it, I guess. Rightfully,
The,
you
the deal the deal closed a year and a half later in late 2023. The deal closed. So that's not why, I mean, it's not the relevant story this week, but I wanted to set the context for my story. But before we get there, thoughts on my what was that 10-minute monologue? 15-minute monologue.
uh, we need to break up so much. We need to take up so many companies. So many thoughts. Like one, oh, I have $4 billion lying around. Like great, good for them, but money begets money is one. Secondly, yes, Microsoft should have been broken up. Google should have been broken up. Now the antitrust division has stopped asking for Chrome to be sold.
Yeah.
And obviously Google is pushing back against everything else also. That I think is due next week. The breakup of the platform fee requirement.
Mhm.
Uh, I think so. I'll check. But yeah, I think. It's supposed to go into effect next week. Google has appealed. So many breakups need to happen. Also, another thought that, oh, this company is embroiled in controversy. There's sexual harassment lawsuits. Let me buy in. Just capitalism, baby.
No, but that's a feature, right? It's not a bug because
The
ostensibly
problem is it's a feature, not a bug.
you have a board of directors who, while they're responsible, are hopefully removed from all this unsavory stuff and who can clean house, get the bad people out and bring good people in. Right? That's I'll be the devil's advocate there. In fact, that's what happened with Activision Blizzard. The deal was was struck by the board of directors over the objections of the CEO on the condition that if the deal closes, the CEO will exit.
Oh, fair.
But don't feel too bad for him. He got a $250 million golden parachute.
I was not going to feel bad for him for even half a second. Don't you know me?
$250 million for getting sacked after that that behavior, those allegations are made against him. And he just saw the deal through and left with a what was it at the time, a 2000 crore rupee paycheck. Yeah.
I like so many thoughts again just on CEO pay and employee pay and how AI fits into all that. That capitalism, baby. Like, okay, let's say AI is everything is hyped up to be right.
Uh-huh.
AI, AGI, whatever. It can reason. It can fold proteins. I have never heard a pharma example after that of AI's use cases, right? But it can do all that. But last 3 years, what have they been touting as the biggest value driver for AI, the best thing it can do? Fire people, enable you to fire people, right? That's what we've become as a society.
Yeah.
How can we use the best technologies we have available to be able to fire people and give more money back to the shareholders and give our CEOs $250 million payouts while nobody is talking about what happens with all these job losses? Where do they go? Where do they get absorbed? Uh, yeah,
These
we
people should.
simultaneously, while we keep, while there is so much destruction in the world and bloody climate change happening. And what should we do? Let's keep making more data centers and GPUs, which will never get used.
These job losses that you're referring to, the people who are getting fired, they should pull themselves up by the bootstraps and start AI companies of their own. No?
So many
It's the
thoughts.
least they can do. It's the least they can do. I'm being sarcastic. don't don't make a shot.
You know, you know, we know you were being sarcastic even earlier, but I couldn't resist.
So
Up better bootstraps is such an amazing phrase.
anyway, that was the first half of my story. But this is Asian history, right? Why is it relevant now? Electronic Arts, another game
Yes.
studio, is being acquired. The deal was just announced this week. It's being acquired for 56 billion dollars. It's going to be the largest leverage buyout in history. A leverage buyout basically means that one of the buyers is not putting in all of the money on their own. They're borrowing from banks, and Electronic Arts will service that debt, not the buyers themselves. It's one of the worst features of capitalism, that you can do that you can borrow money, buy something, and then that thing is on the hook. It's like if your car was on the hook for your car loan and not you. That's what an LBO is, a leverage buyout.
And one of the worst features of capitalism is a very high bar to meet.
Yeah. No, just all the things that LBOs enable is just pure recklessness, because there's no accountability. What's the worst that can happen? You lose the asset. I only put up like 2%, and I'll make sure I suck that out in management fees way before the Hindenburg crashes and burns.
But
So I have nothing.
also, like most PE buyouts, right? So many industries being
Yeah.
developed, being destroyed. That
Yeah.
oh,
So
LBO कर
private
दिया.
equity, private equity is just rebranded LBOs, because LBOs got such a bad name in the late 80s and early 90s for all the just utter destruction that they did of balance sheets and livelihoods and companies, countries, that the
Neutron
industry
Jack, maybe Neutron Jack.
they had to rebrand themselves and they became private equity and somehow got attached with venture capital and just
But
one of the
who is
best.
lending this money? Where is the money? Why are people lending this money when the model is so clear? They'll go in, they'll make their management fees, drive it to the ground, and escape.
uh,
Right.
because LBOs are financed at like atrocious interest rates. They're loan sharks. The loan shark in this deal is JP Morgan, by the way. So they're putting up 20 billion of debt.
I thought JP Morgan were very ethical and moral and
Jamie Dimon, the Paragon.
हाँ, ये used to be packing so much.
Anyway, that's not even the most interesting part. The investors who are acquiring EA are the Saudi sovereign wealth fund. They're putting in most of the money. They already own 10% of EA, so they kind of know what they're getting into, and it makes sense for them, right? They've for the longest time they're saying we want to diversify ourselves away from oil revenues, and we want to make Riyadh uh, a sort of gaming hub, and there's soft power attached with this. It makes sense, even if it may not ultimately make financial sense. It makes strategic sense. So okay, why is the PIF, the Public Investment Fund, the sovereign wealth fund of Saudi Arabia, why are they in this deal? Makes sense. The second partner is Silver Lake, which is a private equity firm. They bring like serious PE chops to this deal. They've been investors in almost all the tech companies, and they're also investors in Geo platforms. So like they get this, the nuts and bolts of tech, and making large bets on already large companies. They know how to do this. Makes complete sense. There is a third person at this table which does not make any sense at all on the face of it. Jared Kushner is also in on this deal. He has his own investment firm. The largest deal they've done till now, it's a young firm, started in 2021 after the first Trump term. Started in 2021. The largest deal they've done till now is $200 million. So from there, from a $200 million deal to what is it, 45, 50, $55 billion deal is a big jump for him.
All merit.
Absolutely on merit. That first opening monologue that I gave about regulatory problems and merger arbitrage, not at all relevant here. I just kind of wanted to get that out of my system.
He is absolutely one of the most meritorious people I know. Like, there's no DEI here, thankfully. There's no nepotism. Purely on merit.
And the only reason I chose this story, there's nothing interesting here, honestly. The only reason I chose it was because I feel that you and I, made a mistake in the last 20 years. We judged Robert Vadra too harshly. This is the Damad playbook, right? He pioneered it. Jared Kushner is just following in the footsteps of Robert Vadra.
We've discussed before. It seems in so many areas that the US is following the Indian playbook.
Yeah. So Kushner can run today because Robert Vadra once walked. No.
Oh man, there's a sentimental book in there somewhere. Inspirational stories.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing which countries' regulatory authorities have problems with this deal. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. The Saudis already own Live Golf. They already have their own soccer league.
Well,
So that's it.
uh,
That
but okay, we just
nothing just happened. Nothing was just.
nothing just happened. I was sitting on the edit and no, nothing. We did not censor anything. We did not self-censor at all. No, 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 no. We are very sincere. No, this is great. This is fantastic. This deal goes through. I hope Jared Kushner, who has absolutely earned it, becomes the richest man in the world. Honestly, also because I want to see Elon Musk's reaction when that happens. But yeah, no, they've all earned it. They're all amazing people. Don't notice.
Yeah. Absolute meritocracy. No.
Absolute meritocracy.
So that's it. That's my story. In fact, the Activision Blizzard deal was a much better, yes, with the benefit of hindsight, but a much better acquisition on all metrics. The the valuation was a lot lesser. Strategically, there's not so much concentration. Like EA makes most of its money from consoles, so it is dependent on the console manufacturers, which in this case happens to be Microsoft. Not a good thing. The Activision Blizzard deal, while bigger, was a much better deal finance wise. No, just in terms of multiples, what was paid, and how much longer of a runway or a moat the company has compared to what EA is being paid for. But like I said, it's not purely a financial decision. EA, just like Live Golf will probably not make money for decades to come, but that doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
objective something else. You know.
Well, the media consolidation going on right now in the last 3 months is just insane. Absolutely insane. So, and yeah, you can tell that a lot of it is just wrap things up as quickly as possible before the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Try and get everything in before the midterms, right? That's the intent, because you never know. And this midterm season will start in like 6 months. No? The campaigning and everything will start. So best
And,
POC away.
and yeah, even for the midterms, where does the opposition even talk anymore? Because TikTok, Twitter, CBS News, Fox News, anyhow,
Yeah.
CNN. So, yeah.
Better to bring all of those under your control. Which again, the Indians did it first.
Exactly. Exactly.
We are cutting edge for once. It's like we were running at the back of the pack and suddenly everybody flipped and now we right charging backwards.
And nobody gives us credit for this. Nobody gives Indians credit for like things like the IT cell as an inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
It's
people.
the exact same playbook, right? It's the exact same playbook, and we pioneered it and did it at a lower cost, just like the ISRO approach.
Mm.
So the only reason Kushner can see so far is because he's standing on the shoulders of giants like Robert Vazra.
Uh, do it. Write that book. Write that book. Inspirational book. Robin Jar. Robin Jar. Best buds. I'll do the sitcom on Jensen and Doland running Intel. You write this.
Awesome. Okay, that's it. That's my story. What do you got for us?
My story is a quick one. Also because I didn't have much time this week.
Mhm.
Research. But just same, I'm beating the same old drum today on this time on the NVIDIA meets OpenAI, which is also a fair bit of a farce because of a bunch of things. Okay, so let me start. What happened? NVIDIA has said it will invest okay, so that's the headlines coming out, right? NVIDIA invests $100 billion in OpenAI.
Yeah.
Current valuation is $500 billion. So a bunch of the headlines have just very quickly been okay. So now Nvidia owns 20% of OpenAI, $100 billion at $500 billion.
That's the math, right?
That
Yep.
one, which is not true. I'll come to that. But also the other thing that is, Nvidia is expecting OpenAI to just buy chips from them, so the cash won't flow. So therefore, Nvidia pays 100, or rather, Nvidia gets equity for $100 billion and pays nothing, and blah blah blah. Right. So it's just they're buying out their like a forward integration in a sense,
Yeah.
which is also, I wouldn't say not true, but it's just very messy because there is so much going on. So essentially, let me read what Nvidia actually says in their press release. This is a strategic partnership because LinkedIn speak, right? Enables OpenAI to build and deploy at least 10 gigawatts of AI data centers with NVIDIA systems representing millions of GPUs. To support this partnership, NVIDIA intends to invest up to $100 billion in OpenAI progressively as each gigawatt is deployed.
Mhm.
And the first gigawatt of NVIDIA systems will be deployed in the second half of 2026 on the NVIDIA Vera Rubin platform, which is their next set
Mhm.
of GPUs. So, and here's where it already starts getting murky. Apparently, what CNBC says is right. Next month, they'll invest about $10 billion. That's the only cash that will come in, and will immediately go back into GPU purchases. Everything else is linked to data center setup, which will happen. Like they're already saying, the first gigawatt will happen in the second half of 2026. So they get 10 now, 10, 10, 10 over the next 4 to 5 years is what this deal actually is. So it's not a, like my immediate reaction was NVIDIA is buying 20% of OpenAI, right? But no, very, very, very far from it. Where the numbers are very messy is, okay, so there is per gigawatt, what is the spend and how much time does it take? Because this is 10 gigawatts of compute that they have to set up. OpenAI has to set up, right? So how much time will it take and how much money do they need to spend to get this $10 billion each? So Crusoe and Oracle, there is some reporting. Crusoe set up a joint venture. Crusoe is this one compute company, right? They set up data centers to provide compute on an hourly basis for OpenAI, for Microsoft, etc., etc.
Right.
Effectively, setting up that 1.2 gigawatt of compute ran into about $12 billion to a JV, and buying GPUs for that was about $20 billion. This is not my research. This is basically, again, Exitron plus, plus, plus. Right. So that's about $30 billion per gigawatt of compute is what they had to spend.
Right.
And because this is such a massive, massive, massive setup, even if there are economies of scale, I'm sure there are economies of scale, but there's such a massive setup that they can't really kick in because you will have to set these up at multiple places over many, many years. It's not like suddenly today I'll set up a 10 gigawatt of compute, one facility, and therefore I enjoy massive economies of scale. No, because these are such huge investments, they don't really kick in. So therefore, for 10 gigawatt of compute for OpenAI to set it up, they will have to spend somewhere between 250 to $300 billion to then get that, to then qualify for that $90 billion tiered investment from NVIDIA.
When we, okay.
And this, while, so this actually then, like last to last time when we had discussed the OpenAI actual numbers around the Oracle deal, where we discussed that OpenAI has committed to spending about $300 billion on Oracle for compute. That is parallel to this 300-ish billion dollars that they will have to spend to set up data centers. So
Right.
then I'd said that effectively OpenAI needs to make like $1 trillion in revenue by 2030 to justify all this. I did to bump it up like about 1.5 to 2 trillion. Because this is all still just compute and capex. This is not, well, you can say training data costs will come from the compute itself, but this is not salaries. This is not everything else running the company. Uh, there is going to be a hell of a lot of debt that they have to service. Right. So, yeah. So, in the next 5 years, they need to be running up about $1.5 trillion in revenue. Maybe two, because why not? Right. Let's just round up. So, yeah, New York Times says OpenAI has agreements in place to build $400 billion in data center infrastructure. And New York Times says OpenAI has promised to spend $400 billion with Oracle, not 300. So yeah, I'll just add that there is a reason all of this is being kept so murky, and we have to fetch this detail from CNBC and this from somewhere in New York Times reporting and this from the press release and that from the information.
If only there was a tool that would help you bring all these disparate news sources together and weave a single narrative.
If only someone would invent that. But no, you can't. But honestly, I am feeling that these days because everything is paywalled.
Yeah.
Everything is behind such a horrible. There is no one place, like news is completely broken up. The information does some great reporting right around the tech space, but I can't access it at all because it's $400 a year. I can't spend that. Right. I took a WSJ subscription through Mint, right,
Mhm.
which is fantastic value. Mint does WSJ for 2,000 rupees a year. Insane
Yeah,
value. Uh, so now a lot of my links that will end up in the podcast will be from WSJ. I am
nice,
supporting the Rupert Murdoch empire in my own tiny little way. Proud of it.
nice.
So one of the reasons I do end up using Perplexity is maybe it'll give me some archive source, or it'll have its own, what do they call them? I don't know, the search engine access to those
Yeah,
articles. But it doesn't really help. No, even that is going down. So I have actually literally tried using AI to bypass these paywalls, but even that's not good.
yeah. More and more internet archive links are going red.
Yeah. I tried that today for this. So this New York Times reporting on this $400 billion, I couldn't access it.
Yeah,
That is a huge problem. How do we get our news now?
yeah.
There is no source for news, which is why let's just believe what AI says effectively is what is going to happen. So that is that. Some other interesting notes on this one. Firstly, any thoughts? Then I'll come to those.
Uh, it's like I said, this is all pataka maths. You'll have a high absurd MRP, and the money that actually, if at all, ends up changing hands will be a fraction of a fraction of the headline figures. It's the only way it can work. Or these fuckers already know that there's going to be a meltdown before that. And so, what difference does it make? It's like having a Vision 2050 statement. Who among us is going to be around to hold the other accountable for it?
Meanwhile, stock market was here. Stock market उसी दिन बढ़ गया.
Huh, because
जरिए
it's at least in the short term, it's we are in the late stages of a bubble, man. This it's inevitable. And plus, you layer F&O on top of that, and you layer Robinhood on top of that. It's inevitable. No? The market loves these surprises, loves the pops they make. I don't think I have ever seen any company jump on earnings news as much as Oracle did. It's irrational. It does not make sense. They posted bad numbers. The actual, the common refrain in parenting is that the kids learn from what you do, not what you say. Why don't we hold our companies accountable to that same thing? Stop listening to what they say and start looking at what they're actually doing, which is terrible. They're not even close to the growth or numbers or anything at all that they're projecting.
and look at how the Wall Street Journal reports this shit, right? Which is where the media is just so badly letting us down, right? So from that same article where they
But
announced where
if they
WS,
push back, that is going to be cut off.
so like cut off from what? From access to Sam Altman directly. Okay.
Nobody's going to read their stuff. Nobody pays for it already, anyways. We just discussed that it's getting harder to bypass it. Where are they going to get the money from?
I don't think this is access related. I don't think WSJ cares about access to Sam Altman. I think this is more just ideological because the man sitting at top who owns the WSJ is making his own money from all of this. So why go hard on someone? It's a small club and we are not in it. Like, look at I want to get into this particular article where they report this. Not JV, strategic partnership thing. OpenAI will use the cash from NVIDIA's investments to help pay for new chips produced by NVIDIA, a circular arrangement that allows a chip company to turn its balance sheet cash into new revenue. Such circular arrangements are common in the AI world and have raised questions about the extent to which new sales reflect genuine market demand versus capital recycled within the industry. After like 30 of these deals, WSS like raised questions. I mean, raised questions in like para 8 or something. NVIDIA hasn't yet released its Vera Rubin technology on which this whole deal is based,
Yeah.
which is expected to be more than twice as powerful. Kuch bhi bol do, because there is no definition of powerful. Right. The goal of deploying 10 gigawatts of computing power will likely require dozens of new data center clusters, which would take years to build. Where is the analysis from these things in WSJ? According to this is for every $10 billion NVIDIA invests in OpenAI, the startup will spend $35 billion on NVIDIA chips, according to an analysis from New Street Research. OpenAI has no money left. And they've just launched a slop generator, which is probably costing it like $3 to $4 per video, like Sora 2, the social media app. Media is just so terribly letting us down.
Okay, here's what I think uh, is the position that the journalists, specifically the journalists from these media houses, find themselves in. At least some of them were around for the dot-com crash, right? All these things that you just described, the circular economy, the projections 10 years into the future, those absurd trillion-dollar numbers. Yes, sir, we've all seen this movie before. Okay, these exact same hubristic practices happened in the late stages of the dot-com bubble as well, just before it popped. Now, even for tech journalists who recognize these patterns, or business journalists or just journalists, who recognize this pattern, even for them, what are the alternatives? A, you say this is a bubble. It's going to pop, and it's going to be really bad for everybody when it does pop. Sooner or later, you're going to be right. Okay, but let's say that bubble pops 6 months from now. For those 6 months, you're going to sound like Cassandra, who is going to get up every day and say the same thing, that this see, look, another new uh, example of why we are all delusional, and that this is going bad news is imminent. You can do that for 6 months, be wrong for 6 months, be right once, be lauded for it for a week, and then forgotten, right? Because unlike the guys in The Big Short, these journalists are not going to make money from being right that the bubble is going to pop, right? They're just going to sound like idiots for 6 months, sound absolutely right, get to say I told you so for 2 weeks, and then be forgotten. And the alternative is you feed into the frenzy and you get those clicks for those 6 months. And when it's like with fund managers, right? As long as the your benchmark, your index is going down as well, nobody blames you for investing in the top 7 tech companies. Nobody is going to hold your feet to the fire for investing in Apple or Microsoft at the top of the bubble, because everybody was doing it, right? Whereas if you stand alone, even if you are right, what's the upside?
We don't disagree. I, yeah, there is a lack of a moral fiber absolutely everywhere in the world. Capitalism, maybe. But yeah, we don't really disagree over it.
They stand to gain from speaking truth to power. If it is the same problem with Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr, what do they stand for?
If you're a journalist, what do you
Nice.
stand to don't you walking about what's going on? Sorry, man. No.
Don't make the lazy argument.
That's not a lazy argument. Sorry. No. That is not a lazy argument. यहाँ पे gain है, वहाँ gain नहीं है, so therefore I will go here. Then you're not a journalist, you're a PR rag, which they are. Which they are.
Okay.
I have, I could go deeper into the numbers, but again, it is just, the result will still be the same. I will still keep thinking this deal is just, it's a $10 billion deal, not a $100 billion deal, disguised as a $100 billion deal,
Mhm.
so that A, we can push up OpenAI's, like help it hit that $500 billion valuation mark
Yeah.
without anyone actually having to spend any money for it. And B, OpenAI is still running out of cash. Yes.
And it helps feed into Nvidia stock price as well, right? Because it's still they are the listed one. They've got their clause in OpenAI as well now, and so to the moon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, so OpenAI is committed, a company that makes 10, I have said this now 18 times, I think, or 35 times, or 345 times. A company that will make like 10 to $12 billion this year has committed to some $1.2 trillion in spending overall uh, over the next 5 years. I am that Cassandra, I guess. And no, I'm not. I'm not important enough. Hello, 85 subscribers. We love you. But yeah,
No, you're not Cassandra. What you are is a party pooper. Everyone's having fun and getting drunk, and you're standing there in the corner telling everybody that the punch bowl is spiked. Who cares, man?
I'm the
What's
main.
what's a, yeah? What's a little roofies? What difference does it make? Hmm?
And I'm not
That's
even saying this bubble gonna pop. Like, okay, stock prices aside, I don't know. I don't care enough. I'm just saying this is bizarre. This is stupid.
yeah, it is.
So
It is. But uh, that's an actual quote from 2008. If the music is playing, you have to dance.
I think I will have
One of the bankers
short.
actually said it. Yeah, we all knew that shit was gonna hit the fan, but come on, the music was playing. You have to dance. So
I
this
think I'll go watch The Big Short today. I need some. Have been
is
watching.
such
The
a
What's The
good
Big Short
movie.
again?
Such a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen Margin Call?
No.
Oh, less entertaining, but oh my god. First of all, before you watch it, just list out the cast. Okay, on IMDb, just see who all is there in Margin Call. It'll blow your mind. It's about 24-48 hours inside an investment bank on the day that the global financial crisis happened. On the day, how they stumble upon uh, how exposed they are and what they do and what it catalyzes. Just
There are very
phenomenal.
big names in there. Yeah.
It just
Any Irons, Demi Moore,
keep going.
mm, Stanley Tucci, Kevin Spacey. Oh, I really admire that man. I haven't checked the news in 10 years. I hope he's doing well.
Keep going.
Zachary Quinto, Ashley Williams. Ashley Williams is a familiar name, but I don't know who. Susan
Keep going.
Bell. I Asif Mandvi, the Daily Show guy. I think I'm done with the names I've ever heard of. Who's that?
Yes.
Simon Baker playing Jared Cohen. Jared Cohen. Why is that name familiar? Anyhow,
It's amazing. Highly recommend. Oh, and I'm reading Supremacy, which is the story of uh, Sam Altman, or rather, OpenAI and DeepMind. DeepSeek? DeepMind?
Deep Seek.
DeepMind.
Oh, is it good? Is it like well as no Deep Mind, not Deep Seek. Man.
DeepMind. Yeah.
Deep Mind.
I'm about 20-25% done. It's not very good writing. It's a good story, not very well written, which is so unusual because normally you get the other way around. The story
Hmm.
itself is okay, but it is written so entertainingly well that you can't stop reading. This is the other way. I'm reading despite the writing, not because of it. So
Ah,
I'm plowing through it. Interesting characters. I now know about Alton's early years, which I did not. Um, More insight into the kind of person he is, or at least what the present narrative is about the kind of person he is. Interesting book, and I'm making my way through it unenthusiastically, unfortunately, but I'm making my way through it.
I'm still waiting to get my hands on Empire of the Sun, but it is very expensive right now. 2,000 rupees for hard copy and 1,950 rupees for Kindle.
Kindle. Why? Why?
It's not like the author is getting 1,900 rupees out of those 1,950, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I will wait for it to come down in price, or I will, no, never mind. I will not do anything.
Look at
Wait for it to
the
come down in price. Please. No, you're see, right of the sun? Here comes the sun. What did I say? Here comes it.
You said Empire of the Sun.
Ah, here comes the sun. See you next week.
Yeah. See you when you
See you all. Bye bye.